Okay. Oh. Hi. Hey. Welcome. So now, the other thing to do is to share it into the group. And you got to help me out, babe. How do I share?
I'm not really great at Facebook.
What vibration would we be doing this task right now?
Can we share it? Do you share it after or do you share it now?
Well, people are going to be wanting it to be live in the group, so I'm going to say, you know what? Hey, if you're jumping on, let us know who you are, where you're from, what is your vibe currently, and if you really want to get amongst it, what you're going to do is you're going to share this into the Love Out Louders group. That would be super helpful for us, because I really want to get in.
Great idea.
I want to really get in to this conversation, because we're in for a treat tonight. Love Out Louders. I want to introduce you to Cheeky Coconuts herself, Elizabeth, my dear friend, someone that raises my vibration. I can see you guys.
Hey, Jess, amazing.
That's good.
We love Jess.
I'm glad that you can see us. That's a good start. And let us know where you're from in the world, because I've invited Lizzie on to jam with you guys tonight as a part of our 3-day Vibe Audit Challenge. Now, you guys probably saw me speak earlier on my Facebook around why it's really globally significant that we do this Vibration Audit Challenge at the moment as we elevate collective consciousness. One of the most important things we can do is master and take responsibility for and accountability for our own personal vibration. Because here's the thing, irrespective of what's happening externally to us, so often we think that life is happening to us, that we're a product of our circumstances, that we're a product of our input, when actually we forget that in any moment, when we actually place our awareness inside first and we understand that we have the power to change our vibration, change our state, and that will in turn inform our experience of reality, really incredible things start to occur. We start to recognize that we are the conscious, powerful creators of our reality. I'm going to pass it over to Lizzie in a sec. But what I really want to make clear in this conversation is this. So often we think that every person, every human being is walking around in life on this horizontal plane of reality. That because I'm on this horizontal plane of reality and Lizzie's here next to me, that we're having the same experience. What we don't fail to recognize when this is how we see our experience of reality, that depending on what vibration, what frequency Lizzie is operating from, and what vibration and frequency that I'm operating from, we're going to be having completely different experiences of this present moment. And if you're a Love Out Louder, we're unified in the single point of belief, faith, understanding that we are beings of light. So to be a being of light, to really become fully self-aware and to experience these higher vibrational realities, we need to actually learn how to master our own vibration and shake off the density, get unstuck from the density of fear, lack, loss, worry, grief, shame, these dense vibrations that are making reality heavy, that are stopping you from actually unlocking and awakening the light being that is within you, the being of love that's within you. And when you finally reach in and you access that being of light, that being of love, what starts to happen in your reality is matter becomes lighter. Manifestation becomes easier. You become a magnet for what you truly want, because in the lightness of your vibration, there's more space for things to start to occur in a really miraculous way. So, my first question to you, Lizzie,
you're going to ask me questions.
I'm going to ask you questions.
I'm never sure how this is going to go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, we will also jam, but I have got specific questions.
Yeah.
My first question is, was there a pivotal moment? Because Lizzie runs a community called the Thrive Tribe. She's a total viber. Like, frequency, I would say, is one of the number one things that you've worked on and that's been a compass in your own development journey, is understanding how to thrive from a vibrational place of thriving. Was there a pivotal moment for you where you realized, wow, looking at reality through the lens of the material world, the system, what we were taught, you know, to look at and focus on and get distracted by, was there a pivotal moment where you were like, surely there's got to be more? Surely there's got to be a different way to navigate reality? Was it a single moment, or was it accumulation of little moments?
Yeah, so for me, it was actually probably more of an accumulation, but that happened really intensely over about 6 months to a year. So a year ago, I was actually fully still in the system, but still like knowing about all these health things and knowing about frequency and knowing about vibration. I was in corporate. I was still in corporate. I was living in Sydney, and I was working for a big multinational company, American tech company that was about to float. Like, we set up all of APAC. We'd moved into Barangaroo, right? And I really became conscious of systems when I moved into Barangaroo, or the system, I want to say, and how so many people were trapped within this. And what I just remember feeling was this heaviness every time I would step into this massive office space, and I was just present to what was happening in everyone's reality, and how most people were grumpy, they were angry, they were really unhealthy, they were drinking lots of coffee, they were, you know, people were drinking booze at like 11 a.m. on a Monday and Tuesday because there was bars open. Like, it was really, yeah. It was, yeah, and I just
Where
remember
were they
thinking,
vibing?
you know, I had before this big expansion, I was quite, you know, I was stuck in corporate because I was making a lot of money, but I was able to be quite flexible and like still like, you know, have my own lifestyle within that. But when I was forced to fully be there all the time, big expansion, I was just like, wow, I do not want to firstly contribute to this anymore, but also for my own vibration. I actually got really depleted and upset because I was walking into, like, I don't know if anyone knows Barangaroo in Sydney, but it's like one of the biggest business precincts now, and typically I could walk into a room and shift the vibration, and I was getting upset.
Were you aware of that?
Yes.
So you've always known that the impact of your energy, the impact your energy has on a room, on a space, on other people.
Yes.
Innately?
I learnt that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Or did you just start noticing it when you couldn't do it?
Well,
and
you were like, I noticed it because people would start inviting me to be a part of stuff. And the thing, people would literally say to me, yeah, people go, I just want
I just want you there.
Well, your energy. People would actually comment on my energy. Like, that was my number one compliment, was like, I love your energy. Anyhow, I'll bring it back to the Barangaroo point though, because I was walking into this building and I'm like, literally to myself, I'm like, fuck, I can't shift this energy. Because also I was out of alignment and integrity with myself. So, of course,
what was happening in the room when you first had that realization? Like, what were people up to?
It was like literally the whole area.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But also, like, once you start to audit your vibration, I was literally going into it as well, being like, fuck, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Rather than like, I get to be here and I get to shift this. So, of course, I wasn't going to be able to.
So distinction, right? Distinction in that for everyone who's new to this concept. The shift from life is happening to me, and the ownership of no, I'm happening to life. The distinction in what Lizzie's just sharing, the disempowerment, the awareness of her inability to influence a space, was linked to the mindset of, this is happening to me. I'm a victim of my circumstances, and therefore I have no power to be able to change what is happening around me, versus I'm the master of my own reality. I'm the conscious creator. I'm happening to life. I can bring whatever energy I want into a space.
Totally. Yeah.
And then what happened when you realized that? You're like, my energy's not shifting.
When I realized that, I knew it was at that point I needed
Grabbing my laptop to shut.
I needed to quit. So I needed to remove myself because it was out of integrity with who I wanted to be and show up for the world. And I was also recognizing that having that kind of lifestyle was not conducive to me keeping my vibration high, particularly from a health perspective. So the more of us that come together and stay together, like, you're going to actually find this challenge easier to do in a community because there's other people around you. When you're in isolation, like, sorry, no pun intended there, guys, but like when I was walking into that building and I wanted to wear my nose ring, can you imagine these guys? I was like putting on all these essential oils. I was like, fuck, I don't even want to wear shoes. You know what I mean? Really, like, people like, that's weird. But like you have to wear
also
shoes.
When you're in that much resistance to your surroundings, right, and you feel like you're the crazy one because everyone else seems to be completely unaffected by the things that are really impacting you. Give us some love hearts if that's something you experience. Because what I really want you guys to feel inspired to understand is you're not crazy. There's an intelligence in you that is literally telling you, I shouldn't be wearing shoes right now. I need to be in the sun. I need to do things that are elevating my vibration. But because no one else is validating that experience, you feel like there's something wrong with you. No, you're connected.
And then what happens is when you start to feel that because of the people you're hanging around, you start to lose your sparkle. You start to lose your authenticity, and you start to lose that very gift that you're meant to show up in this world for. Okay? So when you're doing things like the audit challenge, and I really hope that you're all doing that today. If you haven't started today, totally get it. You just start now. You just start now. Don't start tomorrow.
We give you all the tools. We give you all the tools.
Literally, you just start now. It's actually just jump in, get all your friends to do it. You will start to catch these things, right? So you're going to start to catch, because it's when you slip into that, and when you slip into picking up on someone else's vibration, again, this is where you're going to lose your true gift and sparkles. So to finish off, I guess, that story, is what I realized is, like, I was like losing my light. I was losing my joy. I am joyful. I'm the joy bringer. And I was just finding that I couldn't even bring joy for my freaking self anymore, let alone bring joy to groups of people. Okay. So I realized I had to
Were people commenting in your life? Were people noticing?
Yes.
What were they saying to
I
you?
was coming up here all the time, and my besties up here were like, what are you doing? You're literally I got to the point where I was like, I'm actually killing myself. And at what point is this not worth it? And it's never worth it. It's never worth it. We're just told to. I was listening to other people's projection of fear, like, why would you quit corporate? You're making a lot of money. Like, why would you leave the city? What do you mean? That's ridiculous. So I had that coming at me, but then I also had like my awesome friends that were like, you are so unhappy. You're losing your sparkle. You're losing what makes you, and we're giving you ultimatums now. Like, you just, here, Drew's on. Yeah, fam. So Drew was like, you need to quit. He's like, you're going to have the biggest consequence if you don't quit. Like, he does this thing where he gives you consequences if you don't do the things you say you're going to do.
Was Drew the one that made Nikki bet the garlic bread?
Yes. Yeah.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
It all makes sense now. Why we all ended up jumping out of an aeroplane together.
So we did do that. Then once I removed myself from that situation, I look back now and I had this light bulb moment, because you asked for a light bulb moment. It was last week. I was like, whoa, I'm fully out of the system. I was like, well, not fully out of, but like compared to where I was, anyway, that's another topic. So I was like, rabbit hole. I'm out of that system now. I'm out of that old way of programming, and it's far easier for me to maintain and catch my vibration, because I've done so much work on auditing, right? On just being conscious and aware and bringing the awareness. Awareness is everything. Bringing the awareness around what makes me slip. And sometimes, guys, it's the smallest little thought. It can be something you read. It can be something you see someone else do that triggers something that happened to you when you were younger. And then all of a sudden you're on this negative trajectory.
Yes. And it's like, this is what's so it's amazing when you really start to uncover this. And what you'll start to become aware of is the beauty that is all around you all the time, and how easy it is to get tripped up on this one insignificant, minute thought that is taking you away from all of this beauty that is all around you. And like, I know for me, I have particular vibe checks, which is like, if I'm looking at a sunset and I don't feel like immensely inspired and moved, then there's something up. Like, something's going on in my vibe, in my thinking, that is actually taking me away, that is blocking me from being able to receive the beauty of that sunset or that sunrise. You know, when you're not actually taking the time to truly be present with what's present. So maybe you're like with friends at a dinner, but there's just preoccupations that are taking you away from actually being able to fully be there. Like, how often are you laughing at jokes? How seriously are you taking things? Like, starting to become aware, which is the power of starting to audit your vibe. And by the way, for those of you that aren't doing the challenge, the task is really simple. If you've ever done a food journal, it's a very similar concept. In a food journal, you write down the time that you ate the food, what you ate, and blah, blah, blah. So the vibe journal, the challenge is this. You write down the task you're doing. So the task might be doing this live with Lizzie. And then you determine, using the map of consciousness, which we're going to talk about later on, where you're at in your emotional state or your frequency, keeping in mind that we are literally emotional beings. We're made of energy in motion, moving particles, vibration. Literally all of reality is vibrating all the time. And I don't know if you guys are nerds like us, we're really into quantum physics and understanding metaphysics and how to really understand the nature of reality. The deeper you go down that rabbit hole, the more you realize, wow, it literally is all just energy and vibration, literally all of it. And because we're also energy, we're potent, powerful energy, our energy field expands so far beyond our physical body, we have the ability to actually move and manipulate, for lack of a better word, matter. Literally what's in front of us. That's why when you enter a room, you change the dynamic in a room. The universe is different because you are in it. It can't not be. You're vibrating. The deeper you go into auditing and understanding what is impacting you, the more conscious ability you have to respond and consciously use your free will rather than be a victim of old patterns, past patterns that are keeping you in low vibrational states, thought forms that are literally keeping you imprisoned. So you're going to identify the emotion in the challenge, the task, the emotion that you're experiencing whilst doing the task, and then the intensity of that emotion. So doing this live with Lizzie, I'm feeling huge amounts of love. I'm feeling that at a 10 out of 10. And you do that for all of the tasks that you do in your day. And what you'll start to see is where you're getting hijacked, where your attention is getting hijacked and directed towards low vibrational states, so that you can start to determine whether or not these are tasks that you actually want to do, or if it's a task that you really have to do. The other way to play with this, and I'd really be so interested to know how you've done this. I think every entrepreneur has to play with this at some point, because the reality is sometimes you've got to do tasks that innately you don't absolutely love. So the other way of doing this, the other way of playing with this is, how do you change your state whilst doing those tasks? Because if you're doing admin but you're feeling like in grief, then what you're creating from that space is just going to perpetuate that vibration. Yeah. So how have you like started to navigate that?
So I think when you're writing down the task too, can I just say, like, the more specific you can get, so like if it's a phone call, who's the person? If you're hanging out, because that all plays into it too, and you'll start to create a different level of awareness. Like if you're going out for dinner, cool, but what was the group of people like?
Yeah.
So be aware of those things too. So I wouldn't just say the task, like, you know, making a phone call, but map it all out, because you'll start to pick up patterns.
Yeah.
So
time of day.
Time of day.
You might
what
actually
did you do
notice.
Before?
Yeah, exactly. And you might notice as well, like 3 o'clock every day, it doesn't matter what you're doing, You just seem to be in this like rut. So the challenge would be, what can you implement at that time in your day to change your state?
And if it's a time of day where you notice that you're likely to be more shitty, I don't think shitty's on the map of consciousness.
No,
but let's just use shame then. Let's use like you start to go into that vibration of like shame and guilt and blame and all those sorts of things. Then prob's not a good time to check your emails and respond to people, right? That would be a time to do something you know is going to lift your vibration. So what I actually do, and this was like, I was severe, like depressed, anxious, all like the labels, hospitalized, blah, 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 medicated for 10 years, pulled myself 100% off medication, being medication free now for 9 years, okay? So it is really, it's possible. But what I would do particularly at this time was when I would shift into those lower levels of vibration, I'd pull out my phone. In my phone, I literally had a note section called Toolbox. Now, in my toolbox, I would write all of the things that I know that I love that shift me into a different state of thinking being, okay? Which ultimately shifts my reality and shifts the way that I show up in the world. Now, when I would put things into my toolbox would be when I was in a good state, right? Because I wanted that toolbox to come from when I was feeling joyful, right? And so the way that I would use that is when I was in those low vibrations, and you know when you're in those low vibrations, you're like, freaking nothing's going to move me,
Nothing.
Nothing.
Like,
no one.
This will never get better.
Yeah. You're like, I'm either going to like die or like, you know, in that state.
And can we explain why? Because for ages I didn't actually understand why I would be in these states, these rabbit holes where it felt like there were no solutions to anything. And then something would happen and all of a sudden all of the solutions were there. And I couldn't determine the fact that this is actually, you know, there's a way to understand this and navigate this. The first point of awareness in that is you cannot solve the problem with the same thinking that created the problem. You cannot find the solution inside the same vibration that created the problem. You need to shift your state first. And this is why like a lot of teachers and spiritual people will say that, you know, you have to master your vibe first. And they also say things like, you don't need to know the how. You know, for ages I was like, what do you mean you don't need to know the how? I have a life, you know, I've got bills I need to pay, I've got things I need to do, I have responsibilities. But really the truth of how to navigate reality, if you truly want to live consciously and in full trust that you can have an unlimited version of your life where all of your dreams and all the miracles are possible, is the understanding that what you actually don't need to know the how. You need to actually master your vibration and devote yourself to a life that's maintaining that vibration. Then everything you create from that vibrational state will be that vibration, the more and more masterful you become. And this is why the how is not important. If you're vibrating at love, you're communicating to the universe that you're a magnet for more love. We don't get what we want, we don't get what we think we are, we get what we're being. We get the frequency that we're being. And this is like, it's not talked about enough. People don't get that. They're like, oh, but I'm sitting here thinking about what I want. Why isn't it, why aren't I manifesting
and
that?
It's really important, like Nick's saying, it's the frequency, because people can get confused if you say being, okay? Because me saying something nice to Nicole but really thinking in my head, you're a bitch, you're freaking annoying, blah, blah, blah.
Lo and behold, we feel that.
That's extremely different vibration, okay? So it's about what you're actually being in your whole physical body.
Embodiment.
Right? It's not just what you're acting out, because...
Or what you're saying.
Yeah.
Words are cheap, honestly. Like, really pay attention. And this is like in your task, if you really want to get specific. If it was a conversation with your friend, really pay attention to the words that they were saying versus how you felt in their presence, yeah? And this is like when you become more and more masterful of your ability to discern if someone is really being real, you know? Like, I know one thing that I've really learned a lot recently in my journey is I was putting my trust in people that didn't have the courage to be vulnerable enough with me to tell me the truth. And I was taking on what they were actually telling me as the truth. And it was really impacting me because it wasn't landing. Yeah. And when someone's saying something from a place that isn't embodied, so they're not actually speaking in alignment to where it is they're vibrating from, if you're not able to discern that, the chances are you're going to make it mean something about you. That you're not good enough, that you're not worthy. You know, we're going to make it mean these things because we're not actually able, and nothing's landing in our reality. So we feel more and more separate. We feel more and more alone. And this is the damage that actually comes when we're not being truthful and vulnerable with those around us, even if that means having really hard conversations and saying, hey, you really piss me off, or I don't actually like spending time with you. That truth is actually a gift, really, because it's genuine, and that other person is going to feel it anyway. I write it in Love Out Loud as we've been taught that social niceties are more important than the truth. Being polite, we've been taught, is more important than telling the truth. And there's a really damaging consequence to that. So how would it be for you to start showing up in the embodiment and in alignment to what you truly feel, in integrity, that your feelings, thoughts, and words are all lining up? And it's a big journey to walk. Like, so for you, let's go back to, you left, you realize, wow, I can't walk into a room and impact the room anymore.
I was getting upset they couldn't shift the whole of Barangaroo, the 3 big towers. I was like putting so much pressure on myself. I was like, what do you mean? I fucking got this. Yeah.
So you were like, I've got to do something about this. I've got to change my frequency.
Yeah.
Two questions. Okay, how did you find it within you to make that powerful decision? What was your process? And the second question is, what role did integrity play in the success that you then had in, 12 months, fast forward 12 months, you're free of the system, you get to live a life where you're constantly in the vibration you want to be in, so on and so forth. P.S. If you're jumping on, share this live. This is an important conversation for everyone on your profile. Not everyone on your profile might be as lucky and conscious as you to be, following Love Out Loud, following Lizzie's profile. So share the love. So the two questions.
What was the first one?
The first one was, how did you find it within you to make that powerful decision to make change? Number two, because you might want to answer this together, what role did integrity then have in the success you went on to have?
Cool. So I was actually talking, like, when I coach, like, this is like, there's never going to be the perfect time. There is never going to be the perfect time. And when you're at that point where you have to choose, right? We're always choosing in each moment. We're choosing love or fear. And never before in history have we been at this point. You need to choose. And this is why, like, this work right now is so important, because we're all being asked to choose.
Probably why you're feeling an intense subconscious pressure and urgency.
And when you're stepping from the darkness into light, everything is going to come up. Your shit is all going to come up and tell you how freaking scary that is, right? And your subconscious mind is going to go, okay, but when I have all my ducks lined up, and when I do this, and when I have that amount of money, and when this person comes in, and when I can know I'm going here or there.
It's all just an excuse.
Yeah,
all of it is because you're afraid to take full responsibility for the choice that you get to make in every single moment.
Yes.
That's it.
So what I really got present to was the fact I was like, fuck, there's never going to be the right time. That is a freaking lie. And in fact, if I was to wait for the right time, I've been waiting for 10 years for the right time, for there to be less fear, for something magical to happen, for XYZ person to support, all this external shit. And I was like, I actually need to have faith. I need to take a leap, and I need to have faith in what I cannot see right now. And it was so important to me, and integrity was everything in that, because what I was catching was, I want to be here. I'm currently here, and I'm acting completely out of integrity with my higher self, the more that I keep choosing and taking actions and being in this state that I don't want to be in. And so I just got to the point where I was like,
really let that land. That's a profound message, you know, like the piece of the recognition that when you're not making the changes you know you really need to make in your heart and soul, that yearning, that inner knowing, when you're not making those choices, irrespective of what seems sensible, reasonable, realistic, blah, 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 you're actually not operating within your integrity. And what do you think that's communicating to the universe, to the quantum field, to God, all of the powers around us to be, you know, that we live within? What that's communicating is I'm not in alignment. And when you're not in alignment, how can you possibly receive what it is you're most wanting? Imagine someone put a bullseye emoji, and I think that that's the perfect analogy, right? Like if you're just shooting blanks at a board and hoping that one of them is going to land in the bullseye, how much less effective and impactful is that than actually being really intentional and really measuring up and getting all of your technique right, operating within your integrity and alignment, and then going for the bullseye? Of course that's going to be more impactful and successful.
But can I clarify something there? It's being really intentional with your internal state.
Yes.
Okay? And that is everything. Getting this into alignment, and the best way to tell is how you're feeling. Your body's going to give you signs, because you also need to release control over trying to like predict everything that will happen.
Put it this way, you are nowhere near as intelligent as the intelligence.
Guys, like if you told me like a year ago that I'd be here right now, I would have had all the success I have. Like I'd be like, yeah, I could not. The thing is, when you're in that state, you cannot, and you will never see all of the possibilities that are available to you. That is not your job. So stop trying to do it. Stop trying to plan, like all of that stuff. Your plan should be on how do I align this and align my thoughts and my feelings, and it will just happen. And what will happen, you couldn't have even imagined, conceived that the magic and the brilliance and the amount of abundance that you will get in all sense of the world will start to come in, right?
And that's the reward for doing the work. That's like, just look at it that way. Like when you master that, when you really become the condition of what it is you're most wanting to receive, you literally become irresistible to that thing, because you are it. Like if you rehearsed on your insides $1 million, if you really connected, you know, intentionally to what it would feel like to have $1 million in your account. I'm just going to use that because it's an example that I'm sure everyone at some point in their life has thought about, right? And you become that $1 million. The second that you embody that, it has already happened on an energetic level, and then you can let it go. And it's only a matter of time before the physical reality catches up. And that is manifestation in a nutshell. And that's the paradox of, you need to be so intentional and aligned to what it is you want, but you also need to let it go. You've got to do the work internally to align, to become the vibration of it, and then let it go. Allow the universe to receive that vibration that you've become, and just fall in love with the magic of how that's going to be delivered to you, because it's actually so fun not trying to control all of the ways in which we get what we want, and actually just allowing and trusting that your state has already become that in which you're wanting to receive. And at any moment it's going to come and find you, and you're going to be able to identify it because you're in alignment to that thing.
Having the faith and trust is what is going to bring you that peace, right?
Yes.
It's like, it's so important to really have faith, right? Have the faith, and there's never going to be the perfect time to do all of the things that seem quote unquote scary. Okay, particularly when you're making these big jumps, like jumping out of a plane, jumping off a bungee jump ledge, quitting your job to do the thing that you love,
leaving your relationship,
having an uncomfortable conversation.
That's a big one. Conflict.
Yeah, like
what we perceive as conflict, and how not having those conversations. This has like been a powerful lesson in my journey. The conversations you're not having determine your destiny just as much as the conversations you are having.
Yeah.
And the conversations that you don't feel big enough to have, the conversations that you feel frozen at the thought of having, that is determining your destiny.
Because if not now, when? Do you like, and I was bringing it back to my corporate example, I was like, fuck, if I don't do this now, what? I'm going to wait another 5-10 years? And I would have lost all of that time. I already lost like 8 years choosing something different.
Yeah.
Aligning myself with something I didn't want to align with.
So to be really practical, because I know that so many people watching this will relate and be thinking, oh, this is really bringing up that thing that I'm not doing. Yeah, give us some love hearts if that's what is coming up for you right now.
Well, hopefully it will be bringing up several things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mirroring back to you, you know, where you're not in full integrity and alignment. By the way, all of us have those areas. There's no destination. It is an ongoing practice, and there are layers and layers and layers and nuances the deeper and deeper you go into the journey. To be really practical about it, how do you then put the right things in place to ensure that you are making those choices? And like what can people do? What are practical steps? Like I'll give an example. I had to have a really confronting conversation about 3 months ago, and I was terrified. This person made me feel really afraid every time I was around them. I put their needs over mine. It was a business relationship. I was yielding consistently to their energy, and I didn't know how to own my own power. But I knew that if I didn't have this conversation, not only was it beginning to severely compromise the opportunities within my own career, I was also taking away from the leader that I'm meant to be for you guys, and the opportunities that I have a responsibility to create for the whole of the Love Out Loud community and beyond. So I was feeling that pressure immensely. I didn't feel, in that moment of awareness that I knew I needed to have the conversation, I did not feel ready to have the conversation. I just really I felt terrified. I felt like I was gonna vomit at the thought of having this conversation. I literally lost sleep over it, so on. So what I did in that situation was hire 3 coaches. I asked them, can you have this conversation with me on this date? I locked it in the calendar. I didn't tell them what the conversation was, but I said, can you please have a conversation with me on this date? I locked in the calendar. I employed 3 coaches to coach me until that conversation date. So because I framed it in a way where I was going to be held to account, whether or not I liked it, it literally put me in an energetic tension with who I needed to become and what I needed to grow into and what I had to embody in order to be big enough to have that conversation. Nelson Mandela said it best: it always seems impossible until it's done. So I want to hear your perspective on this, and I want you guys to maybe in the comments write a time that you could recall that you had to do something that was really uncomfortable, so outside of your comfort zone, and strategies that you employed to set yourself up for success and made sure that you followed through on that task.
Yeah, because those things that you're always going to have really high resistance to them. Really, really high resistance to them. And if you just give into that resistance, nothing will come of it. Okay? You'll still be waiting for that perfect time. So what I did was really similar to what you did in my corporate. I've had many other examples since then. I actually had a coach, and I was working with a couple of other mentors, and I told all of my best friends as well.
It's a great one.
I'm like, cool, they had it in their diary, in their calendar, right? And I like there were a couple of people in my family that I needed to have uncomfortable conversations with, and really state my truth to them, which allowed me to also step into the point where I could leave, knowing that I'd fully communicated my truth and my power to those people that I felt were going to cast, let's say, judgment over me for making that decision. What ended up happening from having that uncomfortable conversation was I ended up having those people fully back me to the point where they were booking, like, I was still living in Sydney at the time. This was my family. They booked to come up to Queensland because they thought that I was going to be here before I actually even got here. Like, so that's how much support I ended up having from having those uncomfortable conversations, that I got it in the calendar, and I was like, this is happening, right? And I told the people around me that I'd need support. Like, literally on the day, I literally had like, well, my friends like, tell me what time you're going to do it. I'm going to be praying for you at that time. I'm going to be checking in. We're going to go celebrate after, like that. So set yourself up to win in those. Like, set yourself up so you actually take the action step. And just knowing, like, you would have always been shitting yourself about it. Like,
100%. You've got to realize that you will grow into it through the commitment. Yeah, like trying to navigate reality through the idea of I'll do it when I feel ready is just ridiculous, because you're not actually there's no commitment. The commitment is the accountability and the room to then grow into a big enough person to win in that moment, to succeed. The commitment is, whereas if you're just like sort of flaky about things and you're like, oh, well, maybe one day I'll find the courage to quit my job, maybe one day I'll blah blah blah, like, of course not, because you're not actually putting that into the quantum field. But as soon as you communicate, I'm doing this, I don't feel ready right now, but I'm going to commit to this decision because I know in my heart that it's the right thing to do, that it's actually within my integrity. And then trust the way that, trust the fact that this is the design, this is how it works, this is how it's been set up. And it's the ultimate game when you get this. You get to really tune into, what do I want? I want to become a rock star that tours the world. Right now, I don't feel anywhere near the embodiment of that, but it's true in my heart. So there must be a way and a journey and an adventure that I can go on that's going to actually grow my embodiment of that thing, because my heart's not wrong. What my heart truly desires is not wrong. And of course, there's going to be room to grow. There's always going to be room to grow. That's why following your heart is the biggest adventure of your life, because it takes you on the most epic journey of self-actualization and discovery. Whereas if you just stay in your comfort zone, if you stay in the corporate job, if you stay in the thing, how are you ever meant to actually truly understand your power? Like, what it is you actually are as a human being, which is so multidimensional, so brilliant. Like, the human system, what we have the ability to experience is just like, it's so far beyond our intellectual comprehension, so far beyond.
And once you start to be able to master and realize that you can shift in a second, and you're consciously choosing to shift in a second, which you will get to, I promise you will get to that the more you do this, you realize you're like, fuck, we've been lied to. We can literally have everything and anything we want. Because I guarantee you, there's so many people that you guys look at and you're like, shit, how did they get that? They believed that they could.
That's it.
They literally believed that they could, and they aligned themselves with that.
And they embodied the worthiness of that thing. That's it. That's the secret. That's it. And easier said than done, sure. Like I can hear people's thoughts. It's a journey. And you really do have to do the work. It can be joyous, just FYI. Like shifting your states, and like I remember a meditation teacher once said to me, and it landed so hard. I was trying a particular type of meditation, and I just found that like it just wasn't working for me, but I was putting all this pressure on myself, like I was failing because the meditation wasn't unlocking huge amounts of awareness. And I went to a meditation teacher that taught TM, And one of the first things, because I was sharing my problem, the problem I was having with other types of meditation, and she said, you know, the thing about meditation, when you find the right style of meditation that works for you, it's going to feel good. It's going to feel relaxing. It's going to actually successfully shift your state, and it's going to be something that you want to do more of. And I was like, wow, like I can't believe my ego was obstructing my ability because of my self-criticism in those moments. I was not able to fully see that perhaps I just wasn't finding my groove. You know, I was putting all this pressure on myself to get it right, and I wasn't having the experiences that other people were having, so therefore I was wrong. That I was actually degrading my own ability to be in a high vibrational state. And as soon as I opened my mind to, well, maybe there's a different way that I can access what these other people are accessing that fits with me more, that works for me better. Like for Lizzie, it might be hula hooping. For me, it might be going for a swim in the ocean, riding my bike. Like not everyone's going to feel the way Lizzie feels when they hula hoop. Not everyone's going to feel the way you feel when you're doing the thing that you love. It's about finding what puts you in the vibration that you want to be in, and not settling. Don't settle until you've found those things.
And this is why your vibration diary is important, because it's going to highlight those things for you. And what it's likely going to highlight are things that maybe you don't even tell people that you love doing or that you hate doing, because you're worried about what people, you know, like you might love singing, you might love, like I love hula hooping, whatever, but they're things that, you know, like people are like, well, I used to get like people in my corporate job would say, what are you going to do? Quit your job and become a professional hula hooping mermaid?
Yes.
Like that's what they would actually say. But you'd be like, yeah.
What are they thinking now?
I would actually say, yes, I am going to do that. So start to say yes to the things that you've been telling yourself you can't do because it's not what society wants you to do, or you're worried about being judged. So if you love, you know, if painting puts you into that vibration, do it. If singing does that, do that. If you want to dance on the beach, do that. If you want to do pole dancing, do that.
And we need more unique, like we need you to do that thing. The world needs that so much. Like if that's what is supporting you to bring that vibration, like that is exactly where you're meant to be. I quit my career, very successful career in mental health, literally top of my game, to become a full-time messenger of love.
So good.
Like, what is that? But it just became so undeniably true in my heart, even though I had no idea what that was going to look like, how I was going to do that, like what frame, like how was I even going to teach that? But because I knew that was what I loved. That's what was true for me. And that love that you have for whatever your version of that thing is, there's a famous Rumi quote, love will find a way. Like if you just keep trusting in that love, if you keep being devotional to that love, you will find a way to make it work. And that's like the ultimate, you know, on your deathbed, like let's fast forward to the final moments of your life. What are you going to regret more? Taking the ultimate risk on what it is you truly love, the thing that truly made you feel alive, that really like lifted you into the most elation that you had the potential of experiencing as a human being, even though it took you through a couple of like obscure corridors? Or are you going to regret staying in your comfort zone, never fully trusting your own potentiality, never fully learning the power of your heart to guide you in life? Because the reality is, in those final moments, all you're going to have left are your memories. That's the only thing as a human being that we're going to have left. And what do you really want those memories to be filled with? You know, what are the stories that you want people telling about you, sharing about you? It's amazing to me. Like, I really pay attention when people around me tell stories of the people that inspire them. And it is always the people that went their own way. Always. Without doubt. And these will often be the people that are judged as the most difficult, the most obscure, the weirdest, the most difficult to tame and control, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes the hardest to be in relationships with, the hardest to be a friend, because they're so themselves that it brings everything up in the people around them. But you can't apologize for being all of you. You can't limit yourself and hold yourself back just to make other people feel more comfortable. You claim that sovereignty within you, that path, the journey that your heart really wants to take you on, and trust that eventually your life will become the legacy that will support other people in understanding the parts of you that have been misunderstood in the process of following your truth. Your life will become that teacher. Your life will become that legacy. I'm sure that happens to you now. Like, how many people do you have reaching out to you from corporate asking you how you've done it? Does that happen?
Yeah. That happens all the time, just as it happens to you too, right? No, not in the corporate example.
I think people are still pretty confused about what I'm up to day to day.
But you get to be that permission slip for others to be that.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're limiting your own potential, you're literally limiting the world's potential as well. We actually, I know everyone in this group, not only do you want to change yourself, you really want to change the world. Okay? It starts by being so in integrity with yourself, being so committed to having your vibrational alignment, to maintain that integrity so you can take the action to allow others to do the same. Okay? Because you are truly a powerful light beacon for truth when you are standing like this, right? When you're completely aligned. And you're not even going to know all of the impact that you have on other people when you are being that, when you are fully embodying that, when you've taken full ownership. And really, as human beings, our greatest experience is serving others, right? But we first need to serve ourselves.
Why is that? To really help people understand that, why do you feel, because I'm completely in agreement with that statement, why do you feel, and what has your journey taught you around our greatest joy, our greatest privilege, our ultimate highest space and place and position in the world is serving others?
I was actually thinking about this before, about this service thing. And with these journals, I could tell you stories, but I also want you to experience it. So tomorrow or tonight, if it's possible for you, I want you to go do something in service, in complete service.
No expectation.
Zero expectations.
And no expectation of how you're going to feel either.
And I want you to record your vibration after. Okay? Every time you do something in service. Now, in service could look like you smile at someone when you're taking a walk. It could be that you give someone a compliment that you don't even know. It could be that you just help someone in a small way. But I want you to take notice of what it does to your vibration. Because if you are truly in service, I guarantee you it's going to rise. And that answers your question.
100%, yeah.
Right? And when you're in that vibration, just more of it's going to come.
When you're giving, you're communicating to the universe that you're abundant. If you're giving something, you're like, I have so much that I can give it away. And that is the state that you're in when you're giving. I am abundant in this thing, so much so that I'm going to share it. And when you're in that, you're open then to fully receiving. It's like when you fully take an exhalation, you have the space to take a full inhalation. That's the natural cycle. The more we give, the more we get. Literally, that's the secret. You know how society's been controlled? Is that we've been positioned in a way that's convinced us that we're in competition to one another. That I can only win if you're losing. That I have to be the best, and if I'm going to be the best, that means you have to not be as good as me. So I'm going to compete against you.
Because then we're shifting into these low vibrations of jealousy and comparison.
Guilt, shame, comparison, anger, frustration, separate fear. There's not enough. I'm not as good as you. I'm not as pretty as you. I'm not as smart as you. Oh, it's just exhausting. Being in that is exhausting. And how would it be if you just started to navigate your life with what if there was enough love to go around? What if there was enough money to go around? What if there was enough everything to go around? And I just focused on elevating and uplifting you. And in return, I'm fully open to being uplifted and elevated in my own life, because I'm not trying to keep it all for myself. So much energy goes to just trying to possess all the things, rather than just like being open and allowing yourself to receive all the things effortlessly. Really though, that is a great challenge for you
Can
guys.
we do that?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to give people money. It does, like, it honestly doesn't have to be anything like that. But the trick is no expectation.
Acknowledge someone.
Yeah.
Write them a heartfelt message about what you see in them and how beautiful they are to you. You'll feel like $1 trillion. Guarantee you. If you want like a natural high, that is it. Tony Robbins, one of the things I notice he always says is all problems exist in the self. As soon as you transcend the self and you're in service to something outside of yourself, you literally transcend your problems. Because that's bigger than the problems that you're experiencing internally.
Yeah. Because when you're focusing on someone else and bringing them the joy, the love, there's no space within you to worry about what so-and-so said to you yesterday. There's just not the space there. So you can't cultivate that vibration more within you when you're focusing on that. Okay, that's why they always say like gratitude is like, to shift your state, go into gratitude, because then there's not the space for those other things.
Yeah, most people's problems, their problems aren't big enough. Start concerning yourself with like epic problems that just inspire you. Like, how am I going to change the world? How are we going to create heaven on earth? Like, when you start to be preoccupied with these sorts of challenges and problems, watch how your life improves. Rather than, what am I going to have for lunch? Even though that's also a great problem to have. When's he going to text me back? You know, like, what's that person thinking about me? When that's what you're focusing on all the time, like, the frame of reality is so small.
So this stuff is like a muscle too, guys. So, and you're always exercising a muscle, okay? So most of us, for most of our lives, myself included, okay, most of my life, was exercising this muscle of fear, of lack, of jealousy, of blame, but not even realizing that I was doing it. So I'd just do it more, gossiping, all that kind of shit, right? The shit that keeps you low vibing. You're doing that. The more that you do it, the more you're exercising that muscle, the more that is just who you're going to become, right? So this is why when we want to change something, we've got to bring the awareness to it. Then it's going to become the habit, okay? It's going to feel like a little bit of work at first because it's the muscle. First time you go to the gym, it's going to suck. Then you're going to love it. And then it's just going to become your way of being, yeah? So you're going to start exercising this new muscle of this new way of being, this new way of thinking, this new vibrational reality. Then it is just going to become, what is for you.
Yes.
Right?
Such a good metaphor. It's a muscle that you have to train.
And if you're not training that one, what one are you training?
And let's just also put it into this perspective before we wrap it up. If you have trained the muscle of being in low vibrational states and within belief systems like it's always going to be hard, I'm not good enough to have what you want, this is what tends to happen. You live within that, it doesn't happen, and then you say something like, see, I knew it was going to be like that. I knew it wasn't possible to have what I wanted, but you created that by believing that that's how it was going to be.
And then you've just affirmed it.
You've just affirmed it.
And then you've just affirmed it.
Confirmation bias in a nutshell.
And this is why right now you have an incredible gift, and I really want to acknowledge you for firstly creating such an epic movement, but also having this right now, because this is the container for when stuff comes up with the current system and circumstances that most of the world is in, where you're like, whoa, am I making the right choice? What's going on here? This feels different. You can come here,
Yes.
right? This is what
And
this
we
is
have each
for.
other.
Because it's so much easier doing it in community. So get in community. And I know for some of you guys, it's actually going to be a stretch for you to be in community. It's going to be like having an uncomfortable conversation to, to even put a comment here. Okay?
Good job, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, we love the
We
comments
love
and we
you. We
love the
love
love
you.
hearts.
How's
So-
it making you feel being a part of this conversation? What's your vibe?
Yeah,
listening
what's
to
the
this
vibe right
conversation?
now?
Give us a vibe audit.
So we are so lucky and you are so blessed in this very moment to be here, to be a part of this, right? So utilize it, like play full out in it and encourage those around you to get involved in it because it's so much easier. We can be even more vibey and like off the scale and
Ripped up.
creating all the things because like we're hanging out together. We're together. We're doing this together. We're doing this together. I'm talking to all of you, right?
Co-creating this movement. All of us. Like it's not Love Out Loud's movement. It's not Vibe Tribe's movement. It's the awakening of humanity. Like that's the ultimate movement. We've all been led to create little subcontainers because human beings need to be mobilized in a way that makes sense and is functional. But ultimately the bigger unfolding in all of this is literally the shift from a paradigm of love and fear into a paradigm of love and light. That's literally what we're transitioning into right now. And, maybe this is a separate conversation on another live because this was just like introduction to vibration. But there's much, 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 much deeper reasons Lizzie and I and all of the leaders within Love Out Loud, all of the leaders within Lizzie's community, much deeper reasons why we do this work on a collective global level through all of the agendas that are being fought for and over right now on the planet. There's going to be an agenda that dominates, and what's going to determine the agendas that dominate is our vibration collectively. Because irrespective of how clever, smart, amazing, brilliant the minds are that are driving agendas that are not of love, if the collective are vibrating at love, those agendas will never prevail. The only reason agendas that are not of love and light prevail is because there's not enough people vibrating at love and light for the illusion to be unveiled. That's it. So we don't need to get caught up in all of the information, misinformation, rabbit holes, conspiracies. We don't need to get caught up in any of that. We just need to remember that if I am aligning to love and light and I'm within my integrity and I'm doing the inner work, that is my greatest contribution to humanity. It will naturally create an overflow of love and light around me. We need to fall in love with each other, guys. It's actually so simple that it's ridiculously simple that it's overlooked. If all of us, enough of us, not even all of us, enough of us, which is the whole Love Out Loud mission, we just need 4%, that's a tipping point, that's a critical mass point. If 4% of the global population simultaneously decided to look to their brothers and sisters and say, the most important thing right now is the humanity I see in you and the shared experience that we get to have as a human being, and what I'm going to prioritize is being in this present moment in love and joy and celebration of this life that we get to live together. No ominous, dark agendas will ever prevail. They can't, because we're only controlled when we're in a vibration of fear or below. It's as simple as that. That's why the marketing that is all around you, multi-billion-dollar industries, centralized banking, all of these systems have been built for oppression. And the messaging and the marketing is always, you are not enough as you are. There's things to be afraid of, and you're in competition and in separation to those around you. So when we can start to bust those myths, on a post, I wrote about it yesterday as it is painful to cross what I call that psychological threshold. It's painful to cross that line in your brain which has been conditioned again and again and again and again and again and again and again, because it's painful to accept that maybe what we've been taught isn't the truth. That is a painful thing. It's painful to accept that your parents were ignorant in it and they conditioned it into you, that your teachers were ignorant in it and they conditioned it into you, that the marketers didn't have your best interest at heart. It's painful to look at that.
And it's also painful because you've been living it.
And you've been a part of that system that's oppressed you. And you're benefiting from, it's a complex, yeah? You're benefiting from the system. And no one is exempt from that, by the way. The best we can do is look at it, be honest about it, and work towards a more conscious solution that is in alignment to love and light, and we're in our integrity as we pave that path, which is the best any of us can do, and to be honest and truthful about that. Anyone that's currently within our financial system is in some way connected to oppression, slavery, the evil in the world. However, ignoring that and blocking your ears and eyes and saying, no, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true, is definitely not the way. If we can actually be honest with ourselves, take responsibility for our vibration. This is the deeper reason why we do this work, yeah? It's getting really deep at the end of the conversation. But this is the way forward. When we look at it dead in the eye and we say, okay, I'm willing to accept, I'm willing to cross that psychological threshold, I'm willing to do the work, and I'm willing to put my ego aside and actually work together with the other light workers, light beings around me, without ego, pure collaboration, bringing the gifts that only you have to the table, that is not in competition with anyone, and being truly in devotion and service to that greater good, the true mission all of us want to see, the actualization of heaven on earth, that we will actually truly start to pave the pathway forward. And here's the great news: when enough of us awaken to love, there's no agenda that can win. Because here's the thing, we'll use a metaphor. You can be in a dark room. Yeah, and a dark room's a dark room. Until you turn the light on. Then all of a sudden the dark room is light. So the darkness in the face of light will never be darkness. But the light in the face of darkness will always be light. Light is the dominant force. You are asleep until the moment you wake up, and when you wake up, you know you're awake. Waking up is like this. As soon as that light switch turns on, you're awake. We all need to wake up. So many of us have been in systems of oppression that has created denial and deep subconscious patterning, and we don't want to turn the light switch on because we're so afraid of what we see. But as soon as we turn that light switch on, as soon as you awake from the nightmare, all of a sudden all you see is light. All the demons that you think you're running away from can only exist in the denial, in the shame, in the fear. As soon as you turn the light on, you're going to see the pathway out of it. You're going to see the truth of what you are, you know. And one of the things that Lizzie and I, what were we watching? Oh, a Sasha Stone thing, right? And one of Sasha Stone's questions was so powerful to this ex-Illuminati member that he was interviewing. You guys should watch this interview. It's epic. Who had this revelation. He had a near-death experience. And Sasha Stone's question to him was, so people, you know, who have been in this system that doesn't have, you know, agendas of the light in the world, who have sold their soul, air quotations mark, do they have an ability to transcend that state? And he was like, of course. Because in all moments we have free will. In all moments, you are sovereign. You are a sovereign being. You're a being of light. We're all made ultimately from the same source, the same stardust, that you as a human being are literally a child of God. And yet, through the conditioning of life, you've been sold the idea that you're not enough. You've been sold the idea that you need the fear, you know, in order to play it safe, to be sensible, to be realistic, whatever the ideas are, whatever the stories are. But in any moment you can exercise your free will and choose again. Align yourself to higher vibrational states, and really, like, this is the ultimate gift to give to yourself, to your family, to those around you, but truly in the bigger picture of it all, humanity needs you. Like, we need each other to do this now on the planet. More than any of us can actually fully realize. And we have an opportunity. Like, when else is there going to be an opportunity like the opportunity we've been given this year? Please don't trip on 2020 as like a write-off. Please don't pray it's just going to pass and everything can go back to normal. Utilize this time that we've been given for deep introspection. I've never seen so much collaboration amongst creators and entrepreneurs as I have this year. There are profound gifts in what's unfolded this year. We need to master our vibration so that we don't feel like we're a victim of our circumstances, and we can actually see the gifts.
And you'll see those who have mastered their vibration in the context of 2020 by the fruits that they're producing. Are they the ones that are, complaining and being in fear and being really fearful and scared? Or are they the ones that are actually going out, taking action for humanity?
And what do you guys feel on this? Please, no, these are big conversations, and these are conversations that we've been having between each other, with our other new roommates. We've got an epic house that we're moving into together on the weekend.
Guys, wait till you see our house. Oh my gosh.
Such a beautiful house.
So exciting.
And a few other people who we're close to who are awake, and we want to share more of these conversations with you, but we're also aware as leaders to give information in an order that is going to be understood, received, digested, that's actually supportive and not overwhelming. So let us know, your areas of curiosity where you really need guidance, what questions you have. Love Out Loud's launching a podcast in the coming weeks. Let us know what guests you want, what topics you want explored. What about your new life are you excited by and you want to learn how to better create? Is it the future of the financial system? Is it how to manifest better? Is it what is it? What can we do?
How to have uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
Maybe it's
how to resolve conflicts. What do you need support with? Like Lizzie said, we've got to actually ask each other for support. You
can't do it alone. None of this is possible. If you're thinking, I'm going to sit in my room and I'm going to just sit there until my vibe is so... It doesn't really work like that. You actually need to be in the world to align your vibration. And can we just clarify, when we say awake, I just want... Because so many people throw that word around now. Like, I'm woke, this person's woke, and you look at them, you're like, yeah, but something feels off. To be awake is to see the truth, okay? And when something is the truth, it is not confusing. If you're looking at something or a situation and someone's telling you all the things and giving you all the words or telling you how awesome they are or whatever, trying to convince you, but you're not clear, it's not the truth. A half-truth is a lie. So that's what we mean when we say to be awake. It's to see the truth. And when you see the truth, you have peace. It's always going to come back to how you feel.
Yes, it's so beautiful and so true. How about someone that's hearing truth and it's triggering them because they've run away from the truth? How to then navigate? Because I know there have been times where someone's been speaking truth to me and deep down there's that clarity that everything that they're saying is true, but I've been so in my own process of triggers because I haven't had the capacity to actually be with that truth. What would your advice be if that's happening to people watching this live, for instance? They can hear it, they know it, they see the power in it, they feel it, but it's bringing up all of their stuff and they don't know how to navigate it with clarity.
This happens to everybody,
yeah,
guys, because the truth is, because we've been told something completely different and lived something completely different, we're basically being like, wow, okay, all that was wrong. And so it will bring up your shit and it will bring up other people's shit when you start to live in the truth and live in your integrity. And it's like, do this journal, this auditing your vibe is actually seriously going to help you. It's being able to catch yourself before you react, because naturally what you're going to do, because you're going to go into defense mode. So you're going to try and defend, deflect, and blame.
Because you're not ready to be seen in that vulnerability. That's why. Just so you understand, like, why do we get defensive when someone's telling us the truth? Because there's a part of you that has been out of alignment to that truth, and you want to defend that part of you because it's uncomfortable being seen in that imperfection, basically. And it hurts. It hurts to have to humble ourselves and accept the parts of us that have acted out of integrity, so on. It's also very human, like, have self-compassion, forgive yourself in that.
It was actually one of my biggest lessons that I had to learn. I was so defensive about stuff, and now I'm like, wow, I catch myself in the defense. I'm like, wow, I'm getting defensive about XYZ. That's actually something for me to look at, which is a gift in itself.
It takes a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
You've got to really be willing to, like...
And what if there's someone in this group that's feeling that? The quickest way to transcend that is to voice it. Like, this is a safe container, is to name it to yourself. Then the second most powerful step you can do is be like, guys, you said, or X, Y, Z, I heard this. This is how I felt. This is how I reacted. If you did react, help me see here. What am I not seeing? And this is what I now exercise in my life. When I'm being triggered by someone, when someone's pissing me off, and I just want to blame them, and I want to say, no, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. I come to my friends or my community and I go, help me see what I can't see here. Like, what is it within me? How can I navigate differently here? How could I show up with more compassion or whatever it is? But you bring it forward. Bring it to the light.
Yes.
Bring it to
That's
the light.
such a good
okay?
way of, like,
Don't,
articulating it. Bring it into the light.
If you're starting to feel shitty and you're suppressing it around that person, write down what they're saying, okay? And your vibe's probably going to be low, but then you can catch the patterns. Then bring that to the light.
Seriously, that's such a good way of thinking about it. When you trap it inside, what happens is it manifests as shame. It's one of the densest vibrations we can experience, the shame of not being able to feel comfortable. But as soon as we name it, you'll notice this with insecurities too. As soon as you name and own an insecurity, it doesn't have power over you anymore. What a revelation. But when we don't, and it just plays on repeat, and the shame builds up and up and up and up and up, and then we have to become more and more distant and more defensive to not be seen in that. What's so ironic about that is the more that you were defending those insecurities, the more obvious those insecurities are. Like, it's such a... It's so counterproductive navigating life that way. If you just bring it into the light, it will heal. Do you want to answer
this question? Is a really important question.
Can you
so
read
I
the
don't want
question
to miss
out?
this question.
Read the question out.
So Janie says, how do you discern between the truth and manipulation once you've experienced traumas and triggers?
Yes.
This is such an important question, because
Can you first explain in context what trauma does to impact your ability to see truth?
yeah. So when you have experienced trauma, and we all, or I would say, I'm a trauma therapy coach, I've studied trauma therapy. Everyone has experienced trauma to some degree. Now, when you experience trauma, your body is going to go through every single thing that it can do to keep you safe and to keep you separate from experiencing that thing again. So you are naturally going to have this resistance. So one of the easiest ways that I can explain it is, if you've been abused by someone when you were little and they look a particular way, they might have, a certain hairstyle or something. If you see someone later on in life, they might say something to you and you might instantly feel threatened, but you don't know why. So you go naturally push that person away and make them wrong. Okay, so how do you want to talk more on trauma there?
No, I think that's perfect. A very short definition. develop trauma when we experience something we don't have the emotional or psychological ability to fully process. So it creates a fragmentation. And this is why it becomes difficult to see the truth, because your psyche is literally fragmented. So how do you reconcile that? Is you have to heal that part of you, that experience. You have to actually bring reconciliation and peace so that it can integrate properly, and you can start to imagine. It's like when you experience trauma, it's like a camera lens getting a crack in it. Yeah, we've got to actually heal that lens so that we can see clearly again. So I would say, rather than putting pressure on yourself to see the truth when you have trauma, focus on reconciling your trauma first.
And the tricky thing with trauma is a lot of us don't know we have trauma. We don't know.
Yeah.
We're so used to numbing ourselves. We're so used to not feeling our emotions, feeling our true feelings. We don't know we have trauma. Guys, this year, I didn't know that I'd experienced things from when I was younger that I just completely blocked out. I didn't know that. And there'll be other things that I don't know yet, right?
Many things.
It's
like 95% of our consciousness is things that we don't know.
So if we bring it back to the question, Nick, how do we decipher between something being our own triggers and traumas, and something where someone's just actually being a dick and being manipulative? Because I know I've definitely been in those situations where there's narcissists in the world, right?
People that are gaslighting you intentionally.
Yeah.
I would say, though, I think those people are a lot more rare than... I think that word gets thrown around a lot. I'm getting gaslighted, that person's like... I really think it's important to hold a space of compassion, and if you're judging someone as a narcissist, maybe the first step would be get curious about why they're acting in a self-preserving way. Number one, because there's probably a lot of pain under that, but that's segue, different story. How do you tell? I think the only way to develop that awareness is to give yourself enough space. When you are in interactions all the time with other people and you're not giving yourself any time to be alone in your own energy, like truly being in your own energy, paint, write, sing, hula hoop, meditate, swim, train, cook, be in your own energy, get really familiar with what you feel like. Yeah? Get really, really, really familiar with what you feel like. And when you know yourself, then it's going to be a lot easier to determine what's Lizzie's and what's mine, because I know thyself. It's like number one. Like,
another way of maybe even saying someone else's manipulation could be not taking on someone else's projections, right? So where are you being triggered, or where are you absorbing someone else's projection? So this is something that has taken me up until really recently to be able to master better.
It's hard.
It takes work. So the more that you do this, the more that you can own your own shit and own who you are and take responsibility for your actions, knowing that you always have free will. Okay? Remembering you always have free will. That has been key for me. Has meant that when I'm in these situations, and I've had one last week, I was in a situation where someone was behaving a certain way, and I wasn't sure, is this my shit? Is this my triggers? Or is this person projecting something onto me? So what I did in that moment was I stopped reacting. When I wanted to say something, I stopped reacting. I stopped all of that, and I just observed. I observed patterns and behaviors, and I constantly checked back in with myself. I was constantly checking back in with myself.
Can you be neutral? That's a really amazing practice. Like, the observation is the ability, because again, like for someone that's never observed themselves or observed something in a way that isn't through the self, it's quite a difficult thing to even grasp. Like, oh, I can observe my thoughts, I can observe my emotions, I can observe, you know, the world. It doesn't all have to come from a reaction within me. When many of us have spent our whole life in reaction all the time, it's like a powerful thing to become aware of. You have the ability, your awareness is big enough to develop an ability to take a step back and actually watch things. Doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means your vantage point is in a place where it's more neutral, where it is neutral. Because there's what's happening, but then there's our relationship to what's happening. What's happening is neutral. Our relationship, the projection that we have, what we make this thing mean, is ultimately what creates the charge. So when you can take a step back from that charge and you can watch yourself reacting in this way, all of a sudden you have a strong ability then to start to see the truth of where things are coming from. Just to like summarize that for people, because I remember meditators used to tell me, you can observe your reality. I was like, what?
What does that mean?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Like, how do I do that?
And two charged people or two charged circumstances is just creating this like more intense charge, and it just takes this one side to stop, then this doesn't have any power anymore, and you can see the situation for what it truly is. But it takes one of the parties or having that choice in it to be able to get that clarity and see that truth. And if you're in a situation where you need to make like you're being asked to make a decision, or you feel like you're being forced into something, like just using that word because the question was about manipulation. If you feel like come back to love or fear. Am I doing this out of fear because I'm worried about what this person is going to do or say, or what like the consequences might be? Or is this like, am I doing this out of love? Because they're going to feel completely different.
I think this is a really interesting question, and this is going to be our last question because
what time?
We've been jamming for ages.
Oh shit!
I know.
What's up for us?
Just keep going.
Wow.
Love you. Thank you for being so generous with your time.
Always.
People are just getting amongst.
Okay,
this
yeah.
live.
Well, okay, you got us a good question. What is a good question?
Well, I just think this is an interesting question because it's actually something that there's different versions of this question that I feel come up a lot in Love Out Loud spaces. So the actual question is, I often feel balance between taking a decision from what I think comes from my heart, aka to leave my partner, and not following through on it because I'm wondering whether I'm taking the easy way out and there's a lesson to learn that I don't see yet and a growth opportunity. I want you to answer that first, and then I will share.
Oh, babe, I feel like we should just you articulate this question extremely well.
When have we discussed?
We actually haven't, but I've heard you talk on it before.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a few things that come up in this concept. One is the mental distinction that we often create, which is there's a difference between loving you and loving me. That's the first psychological distinction that I think blocks us from seeing the actual truth, which is ultimately loving you is loving me and loving me is loving you. When you're really attuned to the truth of love, there will never be a separation between those two things. That doesn't mean the other person is going to see that, because that's down to where they're at in their journey and their ability to see love and intention with clarity. But in your reality, doing what's best for you is always doing what's best for someone else. So that's the first thing I will say to that. The second thing is, so often we put pressure on ourselves to... We think that love has to look a particular way. That staying with my partner is the only way that I've succeeded at love. And that puts a lot of pressure on us and actually takes us away from the truth of how love wants to express itself through us. And so often that frame is very outcomes driven. Success will only be if I stay with my partner and don't break up with them. No, love is a practice that's actually employed moment to moment. So if you feel really stuck on whether or not to break up with your partner, I'd take it back a notch, yeah? And I would start asking yourself, what are you not communicating to your partner? What feelings are you not being honest with? to get to a point where you feel internally ripped to shreds about whether or not you want to break up with your partner, I guarantee that there has been a lot that you've internalized. And in the process of internalizing those things, you're not giving your partner the opportunity to actually decide how they feel in the space of your feelings. So if the reason that you want to break up is because you don't feel beautiful, you don't feel like they pay you enough attention, you don't think that they're growing as fast as you, whatever those feelings are, but you've internalized all of them and you've built it up so much that you've concluded in your brain, because your brain can become very extreme when you internalize things, the only way out of this is that I break up. If you're then defaulting back into, oh, but maybe that's the easy way out, and maybe there's lessons I don't want to, that I haven't looked at, that's because breaking up isn't the next step. The next step is getting honest about what you're actually experiencing and finding the courage to have those really vulnerable conversations, and trusting through making that choice of honesty and love in every single moment, the right outcome will manifest as a result of that.
It's basically just communicating your truth. Communicating your truth and seeing if your partner can meet you in that.
Yeah.
Right? But if you haven't communicated that truth, you've never given your partner the opportunity to say, yeah, I can do that, or no, I can't. And they might, unless you communicate it, they're probably not going to know. Right? You might think you're being so obvious, but if you actually haven't stated it, and half the time it's because we don't know what our truth is. So you need to sit with yourself and you need to work out what that truth is.
Yeah.
And
or we think we change our minds all the time. That's the
being really clear, and it comes back to being in integrity with yourself, then being in integrity with your partner, communicating that truth, and then it will just be really black and white. You're going to see, yeah, they can meet me, or no, they can't in that. And if they can't, well, that your truth is your truth.
And that's powerful clarity, and you're not going to have the doubt of like, is it the right decision, is it not the right decision? Like Lizzie's saying, when you state that and you can see very clearly that they don't have the capacity or the willingness to meet you in that, then there's your clarity. You're not going to be going back and forth. It's going to be hard. And this is the other thing.
And it is hard.
It is hard.
Acknowledging that like this stuff is hard.
Painful.
And
but it's freeing.
So freeing.
For all parties, yeah. And I think on a subconscious level, the other level of this is, the other layer of this, should I say, is so often we hold ourselves back from approaching these situations in that way because we're actually very scared to see the truth, because we're not ready to come to terms with what that might mean. And that it is hard, you know. I think every person that's walked a journey of, say, awakening, you know, or self-love, has had to at least get comfortable with the idea that not everyone's going to be able to meet them in that place. But you will hold a mirror up to them, you know, and that's the gift, is if the relationship changes form because they don't have the ability to be your partner anymore, the growth that's going to happen on both accounts is so immense. And the more you handle these situations within your own integrity, the more opportunity there is for a beautiful reconciliation to happen at some point when the time is right. And it will be one that's built on respect and understanding and growth, and all of those things that ultimately, you know, is what a relationship should be founded on, irrespective of what the frame of that relationship is.
And so in that question, it was asking, where do I need to do more work on what do I know if I need to do more work on myself? Have you communicated your truth? Are you clear on what your truth is? And then you will know.
Yeah. I've stopped communicating to him consciously. I think deep down I just want to walk away. He cheated on me a couple of years ago. Well, I want to first acknowledge that experience truly, and a feeling of betrayal is one of the hardest experiences to reconcile. One thing that I want for every member of this community is to really have them truly know on a deep level that you are never, ever a victim of your circumstances, ever, regardless of what's happened to you. And that doesn't mean that you deserved that. It doesn't mean that that was right. It doesn't mean any of those. All it means is you have the power and the ability to empower yourself in what's happened. And that means, first, getting really honest with yourself. You know, he hasn't taken anything from you. No one can take anything from us. It is all within you. As soon as you align back to your truth, everything else will start to flow in your life. When you come back into that truth, getting honest with yourself, truly, do you have it within you to be fully empowered in this dynamic with what has unfolded and occurred? And if the answer is no, getting really honest with that. If the answer is yes, however, this is what would need to happen, then that also needs to be communicated. And we all deserve that. We all deserve the love that, you know, that we are. We deserve to have that reflected back to us, but that we can't invite that into our lives until we first start to demonstrate that. We are always teaching others how to treat us. Always, always, always. We're literally teaching. We are the teacher of how we want to be treated. We're here for you though, and all of us love you, and yeah, it's a painful thing to reconcile. Also, we're never tested in these ways beyond our ability and our capacity, and sometimes the hardest things happen to the strongest people, and the compassion and the empathy that creates in us is immense. And what I do know for sure is the depth of our pain is equal to the amount of light we can hold and experience, always.
So what can you leave her with that what's something she could reflect on to get more clarity and truth around, discover more about what her truth would be in this?
Yeah, maybe journal on the question, what would it take for me to be freed of this feeling? And just see what starts to come. And get clear on what you need. Like, get really clear on what you need. And then the next step after that is not taking anything less than that, not accepting anything less than that. It's hard to maintain our boundaries. It's hard to believe that we're worthy of that when we haven't believed that we are, you know. Like, I empathize with this journey because my biggest struggle has been learning to love myself and learning to accept that I'm deserving of true love, that I'm deserving of respect, that I'm deserving of all of these things. I think many of us struggle to believe we're deserving of growing up in the societies that we've grown up in. But yeah, when we get clear on what we truly need and what we truly want and what we truly feel, and we don't take less than that, that's when life will start to mirror our worth back to us. Do you have any perspective on that?
Actually go do that journal exercise. Like, please do. And having been in similar situations like this, you will resist doing that exercise because the truth can seem hard to put out there, even if it's just putting it out in paper or putting it out there, even admitting it to yourself, right? But do it, because this is going to give you that freedom that you are so desperately seeking. And guys, everyone else listening, you could apply this to
anything,
any other situation. that you're currently going through.
Or specifically as well, I think forgiveness is a big conversation.
That's a different life.
Huge, right?
Yeah.
It is a different life. This really for you is a journey of forgiveness. Deep forgiveness. There's always forgiveness work to be done. That is like, and ultimately it comes back to forgiveness of self.
You have to forgive yourself. Yeah.
Like I feel you and that, and you know, all of us, like it's really, really hard. Like I'll share something really vulnerable. I had an unlock in a session with a practitioner not so long ago who triggered me to a place of awareness where I had to look at the parts of me that have subconsciously sought attention from others, and the wound of where that came from. And the wound of where that came from was a 14-year-old child that felt neglected, that felt unseen, that felt basically invisible, worthless, and from that wound created an inability to ever feel proud of myself. So because I was not able to feel proud of myself, there was this subconscious pattern where I was seeking that attention externally, and the way that played out in my life caused others around me a lot of pain. And only now was I really able to go deep into that pattern, understand where it came from, and then through that awareness I had to go on a journey of forgiving the past 13 years of how that pattern has impacted those around me. And like, fuck, like that's a vulnerable thing for me to share, but I share it in the spirit of you guys realizing that all of us have these things, and you know, it's very powerful practice. This is the other piece of advice or perspective I'll give. It's very powerful to try and see the innocence in ourselves always, and see the innocence in others. You know, we can, because of pain, because of trauma, because of wounds, develop patterns of behavior that are not in alignment to who we truly are, that cause others pain around us. And it can be very difficult to forgive. What makes forgiveness easier is when we go back to that original wound, usually when we were children or teenagers, and we actually see that it was created when we were vulnerable and innocent. You know, and usually because of something that's happened around us that we were not able to protect ourselves from. And what happens to us usually becomes what we do to others subconsciously. So this is the power of really seeing that innocence and then forgiving the parts of ourselves that were unconscious to the impact that we're having. Like, honestly, really, that is the most painful, I think, the most painful part of waking up is accepting the pain that you've caused others. It's inevitable. If you've lived unconsciously, you will have caused others and yourself pain.
I even want to say if you're a human being, you
exactly.
have.
Even when you start to wake up,
by being human, we all, like, the part of the human experience is that we all sin. Not one of us does not slip into unconsciousness. Even the most conscious people that tell you how conscious they are, whatever, everyone fucks up. Every single person.
Yeah. Even the most aware, the most conscious are going to have...
You're having this human experience, you fuck up.
Yeah. And we act, you know, selfishly sometimes. The most important thing is to forgive ourselves, come back to a place of humility and honesty, and move forward and learn, you know. And the more that we express these things, express our imperfections, the easier it is for it to transmute. Whereas if we don't share, this is when shame really starts to become insidious.
Just shining the light on them.
And it disappears. As soon as you look the demon in the eye, it turns into a beautiful picture. It's the irony of it all. But whilst you're running around trying to get away from it, it just gets scarier and scarier and bigger and bigger.
So what do you want to leave everyone with?
Wow, so
Because-
funny. This has been an epic. And how have
What
you...
are our final words?
I don't know, we've covered a
What-
lot of ground.
we've-
This went way deeper than talking about vibration. Oh my god.
So we want to leave everyone super empowered for continuing
yeah.
auditing your vibe for tomorrow.
Day 1 of the 3-day
Okay.
vibe challenge. Join. It's not too late to join the challenge. Just jump in there. The resources are there. I've actually linked the resources in the thing, in the live URL for you. We're open sourcing all of this information. You guys free to join us as well. Yeah, this is a space for you guys to feel safe enough to do the reflection work. And you know, there's tens of countries in this challenge. That's why I love the LOL community, like the amount of diversity always in this community. And it's such a beautiful thing when you see so many different kinds of people having the same human experience. Like, that's the thing that warms my heart the most. And yeah, we're going to keep having these chats over the next few days. So we love you.
Love you guys. Keep doing your audit journals. Journal tonight if you feel like you need to on the journal prompts that Nick just gave you. What did you say again?
What would it truly take to feel empowered in this situation?
What would it truly take to feel empowered in this situation? And also do some sort of act of service as part of your audit and record your vibration against that.
Yes.
Just so, maybe you do several,
Yeah.
okay? And just see what happens there. And then report back to the group. And if you haven't done your live, can you guys go live in the group too? Because we want to see you.
We want to see it.
We want to share the experience with you, okay?
Get
Because
amongst it.
again, it's not about doing this by yourself, guys. It's about doing it with other people, okay? Because you're actually going to get more of a transformation for yourself in that
Yes.
too. You don't know who you're gonna help by holding yourself back, okay? So don't hold yourself back. Don't
The
do it.
world's depending on you.
We need
We
you.
need you to love or above. This is the
Oh,
line.
thanks for
Love or
sticking with
above.
us, guys,
Yeah, it's a
too.
long
Shit.
chat.
Let's
Anyway,
do
we
it.
love
Okay,
you.
bye.
Bye.